There are lots of studies mentioning the advantage of interactive teaching versus passive stand and deliver lectures. And the point is not in technology, I would say it's rather a mindset. Too often when you go into university and you open the door, you just want to watch what's going on behind the door. What you see is a professor, faculty member lecturing his audience. And it's still the case in too many universities around the world. This could change because our students nowadays, they are millennials, so they are driven by engagement, by what matters to them as making sense to their learning experience, having fun. If they see no point in learning something, they won't learn it. If they have no fun in studying something, they won't study it. So how to show them how important it is to learn if we're not asking them to confront their point of views, to discuss together about difficult concepts. It's not that difficult to implement interactive teaching in a classroom, and one doesn't need to have a huge equipment. You can start by just posing a question, and when posing a question, please give enough time to the students to respond to your questions. If you pose a question and you wait just for 1 second, then, which is the average time by the way, then of course it's not enough for the students to think on their own and to give you an answer. So organizing that time is already something. Organizing reflexive pauses during the lecture, just to give time to the students so they can think about the material, maybe discuss with their pair. There is this very simple activity which is called think, pair and share strategy. First, students think individually, then they discuss with their neighbor, and then there is the plenary discussion about the full concepts. And you don't need computers, you don't need smartphones, you don't need anything to do that. Just organizing that in your teaching scenario. As an educational developer, sometimes I talk with faculty members and they tell me, okay, you write with your interactive teaching, but it's not possible in my setting. I'm teaching a large audience, I have 150 students, and I'm teaching in an auditorium, sorry. So it's impossible to practice interactivity. That's not true. That's not true. You can practice interactivity in such a setting just by talking with your neighbor, sitting close to you or behind you or in front of you, and just giving some time for reflexive pauses during the teaching. You don't need a particular setting and you don't need to have a specific number of students to do so. I would say it's rather a mindset. When you want to optimize the time you spend with your students, then you give them the opportunity to confront their point of view, to discuss their understanding, to think on their own about the problems. And you can do that anywhere, basically, anywhere in any sort of teaching place, even if it's an auditorium with fixed seats and a large number of students. There was a very interesting report by the World Economic Forum in 2015, A New Vision for Education, and it's still valid today, which determined that there are 3 different aspects of learning which matters today for running the world tomorrow. The first pillar is about basic skills, the literacy, computing literacy, writing, reading, mathematics, accounting, basic literacy to perform everyday tasks. The second pillars of skills is about what skills you have to develop to live in a complex world. So it's about critical thinking, it's about communication qualities, it's about analyzing, synthesizing, assessing things. But what is more important and more interesting, I think, is the third pillar, which is about skills such as curiosity, persistence, leadership, warm-heartedness. All these skills which will be necessary to face problems in a changing world, problems which don't exist yet and will exist tomorrow. And to develop those skills, you need to practice interactivity during the teaching, because this is when the student develop the skills of curiosity, of confronting ideas, of helping each other, of being more than just, listening to someone speak for 3 hours or so. So interactive teaching is a real added value, and I think that nowadays not using that way of teaching is almost criminal, because the studies shows, with very clear data, that if you don't practice interactive teaching, your students are more likely to fail, and this is not an option we want in our universities today.